this now. I'm legit excited for this. I'd be excited to, we had Sean Salisbury on earlier, and to be able to talk to somebody about the Super Bowl who actually was under center in the National Football League. That's exciting. I'm also excited. I was talking to my wife about this interview last night. She goes, Ryan Lee, are you going to bring up like the problems and stuff? And I'm like, well, look, I've never talked to Ryan in my life, but I've watched this guy go from where he got picked in the draft to what he went through to being called a bust by everybody and their mother, and weaponizing it in the best way possible, where people that have gone through things can look to him and his rise in sports media and use that as a weapon themselves. So I've never spoken to you, Ryan, but I'm just going to bet you don't get tired of people bringing up what you've been through, because I think it underlines where you are right now. Good morning.
Good morning. I don't mind being asked the questions. I mean, I think it's important to be open and transparent. I think that's where one of my biggest problems was. I wasn't. I thought it was, weakness to be vulnerable and transparent. And it turns out it's maybe one of the biggest strengths that I've ever learned to develop. So no, I don't mind being asked questions to talk about it. What I do mind is being talked down to. And so that's usually where I clap back, whether that's on social media or with other people who are like that. And it tends to mostly be projectionary, right? They're projecting how they're feeling and onto you. I think for the most part, a lot of people are pissed because, I seem to have everything to lose it and to then, go to this dumpster fire of a place and then come back and get the life of my dreams. I think people are a little pissed about that too. And so they tend to project when they want to talk about it. They think that what has happened in your past is your legacy or your identity. And it isn't. It's what you are now, and what you do moving forward is what makes you who you are. And so that's got to give you a lot of hope knowing that.
Yeah, I can't imagine, Ryan, that challenge for you on that level of, when you're talking about social media. I think anybody to whatever degree, if they have 100 followers, gets some sort of clap back. For you that's been famous, that has a name, that's still in the limelight. How do you handle that when that's coming your way?
Well, I think my wife would rather me not engage, but I feel like it's good practice. I tell my brother's a comedian. My middle brother's a comedian. He's a writer, he's a director, he's an actor. He's, he seemingly feels like, and I think most people think he's the funniest Leaf brother in the family, but I'm telling you, I'm the funniest Leaf brother in the family. And I'm pretty witty. I'm pretty witty with those things. Also, it's like the B Rabbit thing from 8 Mile. Like I own everything. So you don't have any ammunition. So if you think you're going to come at me with the, hey, why am I talking to this junkie felon? And I'm like, hey, it's junkie 7-time convicted felon here, okay? It's just, they don't know how to accept it, because people are usually not that forthcoming to throw everything out on their sleeve. Once you like who you see in the mirror, I don't care where you're at in life. Once you like the guy you see in the mirror, you're okay with all the scars and everything and what everybody knows. And my story is very public. So one of my mentors told me, and I thought this was very meaningful. He said, as loud and as out there and as public as your downfall was, your recovery has to be just as loud, if not louder, to be hope and be that lighthouse for people who still struggle. And he was exactly right.
Well, last thing on that is Ryan Leaf joins us, and we're going to talk football because he's a hell of an analyst as well. 3 of our closest friends here are Sean Salisbury, who had a very public run-in with ESPN, Rex Chapman, who had the opioid issue and the criminal issue, and Ron Artest, and we all know what happened with them. That's 3 examples right there. And I would put you in there, Ryan, of people that were at or near the top, different levels, ran into something, and didn't quit. I mean, I don't know if you sulked or, felt sorry for yourself. I'm sure you did. That's natural, but were able to gather the strength to come back. And just to put a bow on the whole thing, since it's the first time we talked, I'm not trying to take away from people that have had air quote perfect lives and present themselves that way. But I think there is something, and I'm betting you felt this quite a bit with the community, with the people you're around, that they can identify with that. It's tough to identify with somebody who can throw a ball 80 yards and who can run a 4.240. but to identify with these folks that have been down in the dumps and who have managed to recover and beyond create this life for yourself that's fantastic. People identify with that, and people love that, quite frankly, Ryan.
Yeah, I tell the story when I'm speaking all the time. Like, I walk into a room, and if Tom Brady's in the room, probably out of everybody in the room, I'm probably as close to a peer to him as anybody. I played in the NFL. We played against each other in the Rose Bowl. In fact, he couldn't even get on the field that day when we played Michigan. I still look at him like, that dude's perfect, and I look around the room at everybody else, and I'm like, yeah, I'm this flawed human being, just like everybody else in here, and just trying to be better every day. And that's why I think it's more relatable. Like, I look at him and they look at me, I'm like, oh yeah, you're a screw up. Yeah, I mean, I'm a screw up too. Let's we know how to commiserate around that aspect of things. But it's hard to when you place these guys on pedestals and they become something larger than life, knowing that they're real people. And it's weird to see. If you want a good, I think, social experiment, Netflix just put out this great documentary on the night that all the pop stars got together and
yes,
sang,
we are the world.
And yes. I think what you find out in that moment of the most famous and interesting people on the planet when it came to celebrities and entertainment, like having that documented throughout a whole night, you found out who was really egocentric and who were normal people. And it wouldn't be, my wife and I walked away and like Diana Ross at the end, I'm like, the whole brand of Diana Ross was that she was this diva her whole life. Right. And like, she was the most down to earth human being when it was all said and done. And you just forget that when you're shown something and told something by so many people all the time. So yeah, I think that what I went through was no different than anybody else has gone through. Mine was just very public. That's all. Everybody knew about it. Everybody knew when I got in trouble, and it probably saved my life, because most people who go through what I went through do it in the shadows and in the darkness, and they're never seen or heard from again. And I was forced to address it and make a change or continue down that path where I would disappear too. So I'm really grateful human being you got in front of you right now.
Amen.
Incredible perspective, really, from Ryan Leaf here. Former QB, you're still an analyst as well. Dave and I love to talk about QBs. We love to talk about Brock Purdy, and there's labels on him, right or wrong. But I'd be curious, Ryan, what you see when you watch Brock Purdy play the quarterback position.
I don't get the skeptics. I don't understand it. I know how hard it is
God bless you.
to play that position. I think he's incredible. And I'm done arguing with people about it. You're not going to convince them. So I think that's the first thing, is there's an acceptance to it that you're not going to convince somebody that Brock Purdy is not an elite quarterback in this league because of where he was drafted. And that means people didn't scout him the right way, apparently. And no one's going to admit the fact that they didn't grade him the right way. There's a draftism to it. And so this is the way I'd say it. I say, you're an idiot. You don't know ball. And we're not going to talk about it anymore. And I said, if you're going to label him that, then you have to label Joe Montana it too, right? Joe Montana is a product of the West Coast offense and Bill Walsh. He was surrounded by extreme talent. He was a third-round draft pick. So, it wasn't him. It was Jerry Rice. It was John Taylor. It was Dwight Clark. It was Brett Jones. It was Roger Craig, who was the original CMC. All of those things you can attribute to that. In fact, there's no way that Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel are anywhere near what Jerry Rice was. So it doesn't fit its purpose in terms of what you're trying to accomplish there. He's an elite quarterback. He has a chance to win a championship. If he doesn't get hurt last year in Philly, I don't know what that game looks like. It could look a lot different. But he has a chance to win a championship, and he's gone back to 2 consecutive NFC championships. I made a big deal about Patrick Mahomes going to 6 consecutive. You look at the landscape of the NFC and what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have been able to put together. For as far out there as you think that getting to 6 championship games was such a huge achievement, which it is, Brock Purdy has every chance with the team that he's on, and because of how great he's played in his first 2 years, to continue that kind of effort and to put themselves in that position.
Well, and we're talking to Ryan Leaf, before we get your pick for the game, we can kind of tie this all together. Your audience is Northern California right now. We run the Niners games. Obviously, you're talking to a lot of Niner fans. It's interesting, Ryan. We spent a good part of the interview talking about your story, about your comeback, about others with similar types of comebacks. And it's. Do you ever step back at this whole Purdy thing because I haven't been able to put my finger on it. You've got Mr. Irrelevant, literally last player picked in the draft, who is as humble as they come, who seems to have zero ego whatsoever. He's a walking Disney movie. And I've never seen, whether it's media or fans, right? It almost seems like there's this group that are rooting more for his failure because it will then support their narrative. You're in the business at a much higher level. What the hell is going on with this thing around Brock?
I think that, the 24-hour news cycle and everybody presenting and contributing to content. Sometimes people are just trying to be, argumentative, and sometimes I think that, we're arguing with nobody. I mean, actually, who's making those conversations, who's doing that? Most of the people I've talked to, especially former players, are very adamant around the idea that Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback, and Kyle Shanahan puts him in good positions and he makes the throws, and is a catalyst for this team. So I don't know. I think there is a lot to the concept of the fact that the people that are supposed to know what they're doing in terms of draft grades and everything like that, if he is the elite quarterback, he was a 4-year starter at Iowa State, started as a freshman, went up against my alma mater, Washington State, and Gardner Minshew in that unbelievable Alamo Bowl.
Yeah.
I knew how good he was then, and I watched him go through college in the Big 12. I mean, he was incredible. He was their leader. He was a great football player. And when Brian Griese had an opportunity to walk into John Lynch's office and Kyle Shanahan's and say, hey, if you're looking for a quarterback late, I can't tell you or speak to more about this young man from Iowa State. And that's exactly what they did. So I think it's a great story. I think it's the Kurt Warner story. And I love Kurt, and I love what he was able to accomplish, and how good he was at playing the quarterback position. And I think Brock Purdy is just, you're just born to play quarterback. And there was a moment where he had that reflection in college where he said, okay, I'm right where I'm supposed to be at, and I want to get to this level. I think for the biggest misconception on my part is that I worked my tail off to get to the NFL. But when I got there, I thought, oh, my head and shoulders talent is just going to carry me through. When you get to that level, everybody's talented. You have to improve. You have to scratch it out and go, what was I doing when I was in junior high to get where I needed to get, right? My dad was waking me up at 6 a.m. to go throw routes and shoot hoops before school started. Why wouldn't you do that? It's a start over. And Brock Purdy started over. And he has gotten excessively better over the last 2 years at his profession. So he is not where the scouts and the people had him graded 2 years ago. He's where we all see him. And if you were giving him a grade now, and if you were somebody who's a scout out there that does that for the draft grade aspect of things, regrade him. Go watch the film from the last 2 years, watch the improvement, and grade him what you would grade him going into the draft. And I guarantee you, in the eyes of all those guys that make a ton of money projecting who is going to be a first rounder, would come back and tell you he is a first round caliber quarterback in terms of what a grade would show out now.
Ryan, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. I know we're way over your time, so real quick, who's your pick? Chiefs, Niners, Chiefs this Sunday, Las Vegas.
Having said all that, right?
I hear you.
You can have a bad game. I mean, you can have bad games, and guess who makes you have bad games? Steve Spagnuolo. He made Lamar Jackson look ordinary, and Lamar was one of the best football players in all football this year. That team was. He's having a hell of a year. He's got guys that are dogs this year, and unfortunately, Humunga being out early in the year, that has been such an impact. I don't think it's been talked about enough on the side of the defense for the 49ers losing him. He was the Kyle Hamilton on that defense. He could play up at the line of scrimmage. He could be back in the safety position, making plays that's sizable, especially in the run game, and where they've been gutted is running. So I would expect Isaiah Pacheco to get 25 plus carries and Patrick Mahomes to be very similar to what he was a week ago, where he's throwing everything within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, allowing Kelsey to do what he needs to and take shots when he needs to. Unfortunately, the Chiefs they're just too good. They're just too good. So I'm gonna go with the Chiefs in a tight one in this one, unfortunately, for you 49ers fans out there.
I don't blame you. I hope you're wrong, but I don't blame you at all. We've been saying all week, don't know how the Niners are the favorites. Ryan, such an honor, such a pleasure to talk to you. You really, truly are an inspiration, and you're a hell of an analyst beyond all that. And if my spies are correct, you also have reason to get more bottles of Excedrin around the house. I believe you welcomed in a little baby Leaf a few days ago, and we want to say congratulations to you and yours for that.
I don't know what I was thinking. She's going to be, I'm going to be 65 when she graduates high school, but
hey, baby,
I suppose I had to figure out life on life's terms before I started bringing them into this world.
Good for you.
Luckily I got an amazing partner. She's just over here. We're swapping on feeding duties here every 2 hours. So living in a lot of diapers and spit up, but I couldn't ask for anything more. I don't know.
Okay, so you're still completing passes. Congratulations. And good luck on not sleeping for a while. And thanks so much for joining us. You
bet, guys. Have a great day.
All right, take care. That's awesome. That's Ryan Leaf. I was looking forward to that very, very much. Chris is, I'm going to wait for directions from Chris. We are all over the board here. We will take a break right now. When we come back.